When Huda Beauty launches new eyeshadow palettes, you know I am in there like swimwear. I just picked up the two new Huda Beauty Obsessions matte palettes, matte Obsessions palettes in two new shades that she just launched. We have the Cool Matte Obsessions and the Warm Matte Obsessions. So let's go ahead and take a look at these guys. I picked mine up from Sephora. They are $32 each. Gone up a little bit in price, and you can also get them on the Huda Beauty website. This is the box that they are going to come in. Pretty simple. Here is the back if you need to take a look with the ingredients and whatnot. Here is the packaging. I do like it's very clearly meant to look matte. It's very monotone. Literally, it's only one color. I think this is very neat packaging for what it is. Very, very simple. Both of these palettes are made in China with a 24-month shelf life, which is usually how most of her Obsessions palettes are. Okay, let's take a look. We're getting right into the nitty-gritty of this. So one thing to note about these, this is how Sephora describes them. A matte eyeshadow palette with 9 hues, 2 cream to powder eyeshadows, we will be playing with that today, to create subtle to intense looks with a monochromatic twist. So here is what the Warm Obsessions looks like. I honestly didn't really care to pick this palette up personally, but I figured since it's Huda I would, but I have so many of these shades. Here is the Cool Matte palette. You can see right here are the cream to powder eyeshadows. This one's more up my alley in terms of what I wear for every day, but I was going through my Huda Beauty collection and I have a lot of palettes that I feel like has these colors as well. So I'll do swatch comparisons at the end of this video, but here's what they both look like. They're both very, very pretty, very literal, cool mattes, warm mattes. Let's swatch. So the two cream to powder formulas are right here, and they do have a creamy feel to them for sure. Ooh, I like these. I'm going to swatch these two on top together. Let's see their pigment. Okay, honestly not bad for cream. This is a little bit warmer than my skin tone. We'll see if those set down. And we're going to get into this mid-tone deep orange. We have a lighter one. So these are the next 4 shades. For some reason, I was expecting them to feel kind of dry, but they actually feel quite creamy. I like how they feel. Okay, I really like this lighter skin tone shade. And then this one is the most vibrant orange. A little bit more peachy, and then this shade is very important to this palette. I mean, these are swatching. Oh, yes. So these are swatching really smooth, very pretty. Obviously, we'll be able to tell once we get this on the eyelid. So let's go ahead and do that, shall we? Using my Kaleidos Tone Activator for the warm eye. So this is just going to prime our eyelid for the eyeshadow. Now what's very interesting in the tutorial I saw online, they actually use this not as a base. This is the cream to powder formulation. They use it on top of the powder eyeshadow. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the powder to create, or cream to powder, excuse me, on my finger. And I'm going to try this as a base first and foremost. With this being a lighter shade, I do find that the creamy formula is helping to start us off with a little bit of pigment. It's not too sticky feeling, so you know how sometimes you want a creamy base to be a little sticky, so powders and whatnot will stick onto it better. It doesn't leave a sticky feeling at all. Honestly, this looks really smooth and pretty. I'm wondering if this would be good in cut crease scenarios. Then in the overall crease, I'm going to start off with this shade right here. I feel like these two shades are quite similar, so I want to put them next to each other to see if they were really necessary. So I'm starting off with the slightly more neutral in tone shade. The inner corner, this is a Alamar Cosmetics crease brush. Blending out really smooth and lovely. And then I'm going into this one, which is a little bit more vibrant. Lucky for us, it is pooling more vibrant on the eyelid. Again, in terms of like whether or not they both needed to be in this palette, probably not, but they do kind of stand out on their own. I feel like though, if I had built up this first shade in the crease a little bit more, I could get them to look pretty close. But sometimes those subtle differences actually make the eye look more professionally done. Just gives it that extra bit of pizzazz. So I put the more vibrant shade down there, and now I'm going back into the slightly less vibrant shade. See, they look pretty close. Maybe not the most necessary. At this point, this cream to powder I feel like has dried down. It's kind of grabbing onto my eyelid a little bit. I think that started with the primer, but it is slightly emphasizing that. I'm going to deepen up with this shade right here. I'm not doing anything really special with the look. I'm just seeing how these layer, how different they look from one another, how they blend. And so far, I am very much enjoying my experience with the palette, but it's a lot of oranges. It is a warm palette, but I feel like a few of the shades are a bit redundant. Like this one kind of looks the same, just a wee bit more deep than the crease colors. I have to try this because I saw in the tutorial, she used this shade right here, which is the cream to powder, literally on the eyelid on top of powders. So let's see how that works. So I'm using the cream to powder shade, which feels like a cream. Doesn't feel right to be using it in this way. And using it in this way, I am not getting any pigment hardly on the crease. I know you can see a little bit, but you have so much more control with the powder shadow using it in this way. So, I mean, it definitely added product, right? And it's not working out difficult at all. It's performing fine. You're just not getting a lot of pigment. When you use it this way, in order to get the pigment, you definitely want to use a finger. Now, the consistency of the cream to powder, it doesn't feel wet, but it is cream-based. It's like kind of like a drier cream. Almost more putty-like, I guess is the best way to describe it. But with that little bit up in here, it did add some depth, and it actually worked in really great with the powder shadows underneath. So I think that's really interesting. I don't know that it's anything super special or groundbreaking. If it was a powder shadow, it would be just as fine. But I like the lighter cream shades. I don't care too much for the darker shade, but it performs good. Let's see the true depth level though of this darker shade. I am a little bit under the weather right now. Nothing crazy, but that's why I'm sniffling. Yesterday I did not feel good, but I popped a pill today and then I drank some hot tea, so I feel like a new person today. So I'm going to go into the darkest shade. Let's see. Ooh, this looks quite pigmented. I am getting just a little bit of fallout. I'm just gonna blend this along the whole lower lash line. It's gonna give us some depth. Ooh, I really like how this is blending and how it also just holds a lot of pigment. This is definitely very necessary for this palette because you can mix it with the other oranges to kind of customize how much depth you want. It does build up. I'm gonna go even darker to show you. Stunning. Beautiful, beautiful quality on that. I really like this shade. I feel like it's kind of unique. So this is an Esam W21. And I'm going to put this on the center of the eyelid. Has a little bit of brown in there, which I think is really pretty for this palette. And then to finish off the look, we're going to use this lighter peachy shade right on top of where that original cream was. I'm also going to put a little bit on the inner corner. That worked out really well. I like that. Now it's time to get into the one you know I was the most excited for. If I didn't review makeup, this would probably have been the only one that I picked up. This is the Cool Matte Obsessions. I think it looks so pretty, and it's even more purple in person than I thought it was gonna be. I thought maybe it would lean a little bit more mauve, but we have some true purple shades in here. Here are the two cream to powders, right here and right here. This is what they look like. Look at that shade, that's really pretty. And this one is even deeper. We'll start off with these today. They have a very pretty kind of blurred look, don't they? Okay, and then let's get the next 4 shades. Oh, this one. Shades like these can be rough sometimes. Again, they feel very creamy like the warm palette. Gorgeous. Ooh, and this tone is hard to formulate. Moment of truth. Okay, not bad. Actually, a lot smoother than normal for these types of shades. And then the final 3. This one is a little bit warm, I feel like. Okay, so far, so good. The swatches look really nice. Again, maybe a little bit of redundancy, but we'll see. Already have my eyelid primer on. Not going to do anything outside of the box. It's going to be the cool version of this look. I'm going to start off with the lighter cream shade right here, which actually is a little bit more mid-tone, I would say. And I'm going to place this all on the inner half of the eyelid. I'm going to put an even lighter shade over top of this, but it's nice. Me like. I actually really like this shade. And then I'm going to go into the next shade. That's the cream to powder formula. And these work out really great with your fingers. I don't know if you don't have any makeup brushes with you. Totally get a simple look with just your fingers using these cream shades. I'm going to use a brush to just blur out the edge, but using the 2 cream to powder shades on the eyelid, that's really pretty, right? And they do dry down. The powders on top aren't going to stick to them. Okay, let's get this look going. I'm gonna go in with the lightest shade right here. Gonna put that on the inner corner and then a little bit onto the eyelid, but still keeping it kind of in the inner corner just to brighten things up. We'll put that underneath the brow bone as well. One thing I'm really liking about both of these palettes is how blended the eyes look. They almost look blurred. These blend out that great. And then I'm going to go in with this shade right here, which I like because it has like a subtle gray tone to it, which makes this the most phenomenal crease color ever. Look at that. So pretty. I'm going to run this along the lower lash line. That first cream to powder shade, which is taking over most of the lid. So pretty. Next, I'm going to take this shade right here to see what kind of depth it may or may not add. Not too much depth, but it's, I feel like, almost kind of setting the darker cream to powder formula. This palette just makes blending a breeze, both of these palettes, with the colors that they offer. If you're not good with blending, this is a great palette to pop into. I'm going to take a smaller brush from Alamar. This one has a purpley tone to it. Let's see what this does. I'm gonna put this pretty much over the outer half of the eyelid. Again, I'm doing unnecessary layering to test these shades. And that did add a more vibrant purple element, which I like. And you always have the option to go into this one to warm it up. We're gonna do that on the lower lash line after I blend this in. Yeah, that just instantly gave the look a little bit more vibrancy. Let's see how this shade warms up the lower lash line. Just gonna pop it in the center. Yeah, you can see how that added a pretty warmth. And then we're gonna blend it. Really subtle. I'm not doing too much with that shade. I just wanted to see how it kind of changed the tone of the eye. And then finally, let's see what this magical shade does. So this shade can be transformative if it's easy to use, which it seems to be, and it definitely seems to be giving depth if that's what you want. So I'm going to wipe off my brush now and carry and blend the edges. So I'm carrying the dark shade without any additional product just by moving it around along the crease to bring some depth in and then blend it out as well. And then I feel like it's getting a little caught right here. I'm not getting as smooth of a blend as I would like, so I'm going into this warmer shade in the palette, and that's helping. Yeah, that's helped a lot actually. Amazing. Wow, okay, give me a moment to put on liner and lashes, and I'll give you my final thoughts on these, and then we'll get into the comparisons. So here are the final looks. Honestly, you guys, I really like these palettes. I liked them better than I thought I was going to. So I obviously prefer the cool mattes because this is my kind of color story, but both are really great depending on what you prefer. I feel like they give a really blown out, well blended look with pretty minimal effort. I absolutely love the darkest shades in both palettes. Off camera, I didn't even wet my brush, but I used the darkest shades from both palettes to create my eyeliner, so they get really dark if you concentrate them. A few of the shades, if I'm gonna be nitpicky, might be a bit redundant, but I think it is still nice because if you're new to blending, having those shades so close to each other is going to help you be able to create a seamless gradient. All of these were really smooth, they didn't get patchy. In terms of the cream to powder, they felt really nice. I don't know that they were completely necessary. I don't think they stand out enough on their own. Like, I think they would have been fine if they were just powder eyeshadows, but it still is a fun element as well to have, to use them as a base, to use your fingers to apply them. I still really like them. So I really don't have anything bad to say about these palettes. I think they are beautiful. The quality, which is what is most important with mattes, they are really nice quality, and if there's a color story that you like, I definitely recommend it, which leads me to my next point. We're going to do the comparisons because while I think both of these are beautiful, Huda Beauty does not step outside of the box. She creates different variations of the same color stories, so I pulled a few to compare for you guys. So let's take a look. So I pulled the Warm Obsessions, and then this is the Topaz Obsessions, which obviously has shimmers, but let me show you them side by side. Here is the new Matte Obsessions, and this is the Topaz Obsessions. I mean, they are different, especially with the differences in finishes, but you'll see a lot of the matte oranges are definitely the same. Here is the Nude Medium Obsessions. Honestly, these two aren't as close as I thought. There's maybe 3 shades that were worth comparing, but for the most part, the Nude Obsessions has more rose tones to it, so they're pretty different. Well, ish, you know? This is the Caramel Brown, which I feel like is almost just the multi-finish version of the matte palette. They are very close. They'd work well in harmony, but look at this. So this is obviously the matte. This is the Caramel Brown. I mean, they're very close. I would say you probably don't need both, but yeah. And then this is the Empowered palette. So this one I feel like has bits of both palettes, but there are some differences. So I would say the lighter, more warm shades from the Matte Obsessions palettes. Oh, actually, let me put it next to the warm side. There we go. So there definitely are similarities in the warm shades. It's lacking the same dark shades, but let me also show it to the cooler one, because the Empowered palette also does have some purple tones, and there's, again, maybe like 2 or 3 shades that I feel are close. So you can get kind of the best of both worlds with the Empowered palette, but not a ton of dupe for dupes. And also the wet shades in this Empowered palette are definitely a lot different than the cream to powder in the Huda Beauty. The Huda Beauty is very clearly more cream to powder. Or not the Huda Beauty, the Matte Obsessions. You know what I'm saying. Now let's get more into the matte swatches of the cool tones. I pulled 3 other Obsessions palettes to compare to the cool mattes. So this is Amethyst Obsessions. Honestly, I feel like the Amethyst is so much more bright and vibrant. It almost makes the cool Obsessions look more gray. So these I didn't think were that comparable. Sand Haze is close in that it's definitely more neutral compared to the Amethyst Obsessions, but I felt like color by color there weren't that many similarities. The Sand Obsessions I feel like has some more champagne-y shades in there, so I didn't swatch those. But I did swatch the Purple Haze, because the Purple Haze also has some of those gray tones. Obviously it has a lot more shimmers, but take a look. Cool Mattes is over here, Sandy Haze is over here. I mean, they're different. There's more pops of purple in the Haze palette. Purple Haze, not Sandy Haze, excuse me. But there's a lot more purple. These aren't similar. Getting into the big guns here. Here it is compared to the Mercury Retrograde. Honestly, no similarities. I thought just by looking, maybe, but they all have very different undertones. And then the Naughty Nude palette, a lot of the mattes I felt like were definitely related. Take a look at the swatches. So here is the Naughty Nudes. Everything is a little richer in the Naughty Nudes, but they are very, very close. If you're looking to save money and you have the Naughty Nudes, I think you're good to go. Obviously not swatch for swatch for all of these, but general tones and everything are very similar. So far with the cool mattes, the new nude I would say is the most similar. Take a look. Here's the new nudes. So if you have the new nudes, completely, most definitely skip over cool mattes unless you want a smaller version of the mattes, because wow, dupes. Dupe! This is the last comparison that I have. It's with rose quartz, and take a look at this. Here's the rose quartz. You can see the rose quartz is definitely more gray based. It makes the cool mattes look a wee bit more warm, more brown, but I guess looking at them, they don't look that similar because the tones are different, but also at the same time, you can achieve the same look. Anyways, if you were hoping to see if you had anything similar from your Huda Beauty collection, hopefully that helped you. But overall, if you are still interested in the color stories, I have to say, I think the quality is a huge thumbs up. I am so happy. I have an event tomorrow, and I'm like, ooh, which one do I want to use? Because I just love how easily these blended. And a matte look is so flattering. Every time I put on an all matte look, I'm like, wow, my makeup looks so good. I am so, so happy with how today's review turned out. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you picked these palettes up, let me know your experience with them. Did you struggle, or were they as good as they were for me? Anyways, make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye guys, have a good one.